Ladies and gentlemen, I call ladies because ladies are in greater number than gentlemen. But there is a reason for that. Because when a child is born, the first cry or the first sound of the child is heard by the mother. Here also, when the sound recording was born, it is the basic or prime duty of the ladies to respect it first. So today we are going to dwell upon the history of sound recording in India. See, you can imagine that when sound recording technology, today it is not a matter of any kind of a surprise and all. You have a mobile, you can record anybody's sound, or you can sing and record, very easy. But think, had it been available at the time of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was preaching Arjuna, then we perhaps had no need of going to Bhagavad Gita. We could have a tape and we could have heard Lord Krishna preaching. Or we could have the voice of Jesus Christ or Muhammad. Or so many, even history, you could have listened and watched Akbar giving direction or request to Tansen to sing. Or you could have heard Tansen directly singing. But these things are not available. The prime reason for their non-availability was that the technology was not there to record. So one man who really strived for it was Thomas Alva Edison. He was a poor child in US. Basically belonging to a Dutch family. Their family had migrated to US, and on US-Canadian border, the young boy of 11 years old, in a compartment of a railway, he used to print a brochure in which for every station there used to be information that in this station what is the hotel available, how far it is. So this handwritten typed kind of a brochure he used to print and distribute and earn his money. He was a genius, so side by side he started doing experimentation on chemistry and physics. But one fine day a fire broke out in the compartment, so he was kicked out from the compartment. Then he started selling newspapers. So one day he was doing that business on a railway station. Suddenly a train was coming and a 3-year-old girl was walking near the train. So going to be crushed to death. So Edison jumped on the track and saved that girl. So her father was basically a person who was interested or doing experimentation in telegraph. So he, in return of the obligation, he taught Edison how to go about telegraph and what is the technology, which Edison later on evolved in various field of scientific explorations and developments. And then came the recording technology in 1877. There are a plethora of names of scientists who contributed, but the basic credit goes to Edison in 1877 to discover it. And by 1878 January, it was advertised in Calcutta in a newspaper called Samvad Chandrika. The advertisement came. But the concept, it was very surprising for people that how you can listen to your own voice by not say you have sang and it is recorded and then you can listen. So advertisement used to be like that it is a bottle. In the bottle the sound is there. Whenever you open the cork, you can listen to your voice. So people were very much surprised, and even if you die for 100 years, you can listen to your voice. That's why, gentlemen and ladies, it is called as canned music. You have a can of drink. So today we call recorded music is a canned music. So early concept was like that it is canned. In 1886 also we have evidences of advertisements in Calcutta, wherein demonstration for sound recording used to be given and huge gathering. There used to be an Allahabad magazine called Saraswati. It says that one gramophone is playing and people are listening. Then one person is asked, what is your reaction? Then he says that Baiji is singing but she is not showing her face. This is surprising. So those things are recorded in the history. The point is, we all are music listeners and music lovers. I don't think here in the crowd there is any person who doesn't listen to music. Is there anybody? All of you listen, isn't it? 99% you listen to music which is recorded, either through YouTube or through other means. Have you ever thought that when this technology came to India, who were the first people recorded? And where are those records? So as a country, it is a matter of great shame, not a matter of pride, that we, the people of India, who are so enlightened and musically so, you can say, powerful, we have a very big culture of music, and we have not preserved those things. As a country, I mean, it's not like that we have a dearth of consciousness or money, but unfortunately awareness is lacking. And surprisingly, as I told you, that we were not preserved the voice of Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna's time was not the time when the technology was there. But what was the problem when we could have recorded the voice of so many leaders like B.G. Tilak? B.G. Tilak lived till 1920 and sound technology came in 1900 in India. We could have recorded. But today we can't listen to B.G. Tilak. So you can imagine what opportunity we lost. We can't listen to Bhagat Singh. He lived when technology was available. So these are the field where we can focus on certain people, certain personalities whom we know. But there are a lot of people who were recorded and we have lost in want of preserving. If I name few people, entire generation of musicians are unaware of it. It is such a surprise. The present generation of musicians are unaware of it. They will say, no, it is not possible. How can you say that these people are recorded? Because the myth is continuing, he was never recorded. But when we found evidences and we present before you, then there is a 50-50%, there are some people wavering, some people, because there is otherwise no evidence to check. I give you example, Ustad Aladia Khan. He is a legend of Jaipur Atroli Gharana, but it was considered he was never recorded by a series of disciples, and even books are written. In my book I have challenged that, I have given the recording. Listen, this is our history. He was alive when sound technology was there. So it all happened that in 1878 and 79, etc., when this technology was developed, it came to India to Rajas and Maharajas. So in those time, the records were cylindrical. It used to be a hollow cylinder, like a glass. अगर आप ग्लास का बैक तोड़ दें तो इट्स ए हॉलो ग्लास. Upper portion is mounted with wax, and on wax there used to be indenture. So that machine which used to play it was phonograph. But phonograph in India hardly came commercially, because in those days the rich people, Rajas, Maharajas, they used to buy the blank from foreign country and ask the expert to come and record. Here in Bombay, there are a few companies. One company, I'll tell you, was Espendiar Shahryar phonograph company. Kalba Devi, but at that time Kalba Devi was known as Kalka Devi. So on the record cylinder, it is written Espendiar Shahryar. It was a Parsi firm, Kalka Devi, Bombay. They used to charge 3 rupees in those days for a cylinder and 3 rupees for recording. So they will come to your home, they will record. In the process, when we started unearthing these things from footpaths, so I got 19 of their cylinders recording, still playable. And in the beginning they announced Espendiar Shahryar Gramophone Phonograph Recording Company. Then there were T.S. Ramachandar and company. In Delhi, there is a company, very famous company there on Old Delhi. So I was also posted as commissioner in Delhi, so I went one day to their people, and it is just next to Gurudwara Sisganj in Old Delhi. So I met the owner of that person. So he told that on the false ceiling, they had some 15-20 photographs of early days of that company. And that company was somewhere formed in United India in Pakistan. And how their offices were transferred. So he gave me entire documents to me, presented. He told कि शर्मा जी आप ये ले जाइए, ये आपके काम कीजिए जाए. Though it is our history, but it is better you take it away. So in my book I have given reference and published all these things. So this is how things were spreading in those days. But what happened that in 1902, because in due process these phonographic cylinders were converted into disc recordings. Gramophone was introduced as a new machine and disc recording started in the world. So this was discs were made of shellac. So they were more you can say strong, and they were surviving and recording comparatively not better, but it was surviving. It was though breakable, but then it can survive better than wax. So those records started in India recording in 1902 September. Between September and December, from Britain, a group, this gramophone, you must have heard HMV, his master's voice. So HMV's forefather, they were known as Gramophone and Typewriter Limited. So they came, they had a sound recordist by name William Frederick Gasberg. So he came with his team to Calcutta. Now Gasberg himself was a music lover and a musician also. But of course we were in at that time not an independent country. So you can say they came from a commercial angle. They did not come here to preserve our cultural heritage. By default, no doubt they have preserved. Because in those days also there were a large number of musicians in British India and Indian states, patronized by Rajas and Maharajas. But these, India was even musically divided. A particular gharana musician was not willing to share his music with other gharana. They were even not teaching to their own disciples the full music. They wanted to conserve this as an art. So where is the question of sharing it with the gramophone? And early music, like you can say complex musical styles like Dhrupad. So you will hear that Tamsen sang for Akbar, but Tamsen never sang for common people. So a large generation of Indians remained, you can say, unaware about the music things. उनको available ही नहीं था. So what you will listen bhajan and all, but complex ragas like Dhrupad, Dhamar, Hori, then other things were not available to you. So gramophone, when it came and when the market spread, so all these things got recorded and they spread in the masses. So today if you listen to all varieties of music, a credit has to be given to gramophone or technology. Otherwise you were, as a common people, you were not permitted to go to a Raja's Mahal and listen to or to see the dance of a Baiji. This all became possible due to introduction of gramophone. And in India also, the recordings, they played a very important role. As I told that Gasberg came and introduced. So Gasberg was not knowing who to record in India. So he went to the police commissioner of Calcutta and he asked where should we go and find artists. So in Calcutta there is a place called Harrison Road. So he was asked that you go to Harrison Road, and in Harrison Road there are a lot of dramatic companies. So you can find. So he went there and he started contacting the dramas and all those dramatic persons. So there they first recorded a lady called Susimukhi and Funny Bala. These were two Bengali girls working in a theatre called Classic Theatre. So they were the first recorded. Then they recorded another two ladies, one called Harimati, and there was a Nach girl called Salabai. And those were the times when it was a time of Nach girls. The so-called educated or Bhadralog of Bengal, their ladies were not singing. Even in the musicians, there were hereditary musicians, जिनका खानदानी पेशा था गाने वाले. So, and in those days, the musicians were primarily ladies. Lady voices were highly appreciated. And gents musicians were either working as teachers or they were accompanists. Like suppose a lady is dancing and recording, singing, then the harmonium player or say the tabalchi or sarangi nawaz, they used to be the topmost musicians, themselves very good artists. Even the early sound recording gives you some message that there used to be a gentleman called Pyara Sahab. So he was a foster child of Wajid Ali Shah. So when Wajid Ali Shah in 1857, after the first war of independence, was exiled in Calcutta, in Meteor Woods, then he had, it is said that Pyara Sahab was a foster child of him. But he used to sing in an effeminate voice as a female song. And we have a great gentleman called R.C. Bural, जो पार्श्व संगीत हिंदी फिल्म में आया, उसके जनक माने जाते हैं, फादर ऑफ द सॉन्ग. His father was Lalchand Bural, L.C. Bural. So even L.C. Bural was also famous for that. And L.C. Bural was a very good singer. The gramophone company, his father was a jamindar. So gramophone company sent him a car. But L.C. Bural's father returned it and he had died, unfortunately, in a young age. So gentlemen and ladies, here we have a vast history. And so thousands of records, unpreserved, lying here and there in our collection. I give you example, and it's so old. See, you will be surprised that as I told you, sound recording started, commercial sound recording in 1902. Now somebody of the age of 65 or 70 alive, if he is alive in 1905 or 1903, then the music which was existing in 1850 was recorded. See what happened, that when Wajid Ali Shah was exiled from Lucknow, Lucknow was a seat of music and art and culture. So when he was exiled, there used to be a lot of tawaifs in Lucknow. We listen about Umrao, Jan, Ada and all those things. But in addition to that, there were hundreds of them. And Britishers, and some of them are very beautiful women, looking women. So there was an engineer in the British administration by Daroga Abbas Ali. So Daroga Abbas Ali thought to publish an album of existing tawaifs of Lucknow. And he has published, that is called, the book is The Beauties of Lucknow. He, in the introduction, recalls that in the Maharaja Patiala's court, some British officers went to pay respect to Maharaja. So there were 2-3 lady figures were standing next to Maharaja. So they thought that they are murals, stone. But when they started speaking, then they were highly taken aback that such beautiful women are there in India. So to prove that, Daroga Abbas Ali said that even in Lucknow the women were very beautiful. He took their photographs and wrote this book called The Beauties of Lucknow. Unfortunately, this book is not available easily in India, but its photographs are on Lucknow tawaifs you will find in Pinterest. They are basically photographs of Daroga Abbas Ali, and the book is available in foreign university. Fortunately, few artists mentioned in that, they have left their records. So you can listen to tawaifs of Daroga Abbas Ali and those who sang before Wajid Ali Shah. Similarly, I give you another classic example. The Thumri, it is a lighter genre. So it evolved, it is said that in Lucknow, there is a Lucknow style of Thumri. There is a Thumri of Banaras style. In Banaras style of Thumri, there is use of Bhojpuri words. And in Lucknow style of Thumri, there are use of some Urdu words. So people by and large try to differentiate, like, but it has a big history how it originated. People add it with Lord Krishna's birth, because when Krishna used to walk, like we say, Thumaki chalat Ramchandra. So Thum is the how the child walks. So Thumri starts from there. That is a kind of interpretation. But anyway, we are not going in that detailed history. But what I am telling that Lucknow Thumri is said to be developed by a gentleman called, he was called father of Lucknow Thumri. I'm just forgetting his name. It is he who was born in 1800, Sadak Ali Khan. Sadak Ali Khan was born in 1800. See what happened, that Mughal Empire in Delhi, it was the seat of music, and they were patronizing best of the musicians from India. So there the basic gaiki was Dhrupad, Dhamar and Khayal at the best. So when there was a decline in Mughal dynasties and post Aurangzeb period, the local military chiefs of Lucknow, then Gwalior, Rampur, they became powerful and they declared their own hegemony and they became a state. So these artists flew from Delhi and they got patronage at Lucknow and other places. But it is said that the public who was to listen to them were not that much enlightened in terms of music. So a lesser genre like Thumri started getting ground, basically in Lucknow, because even Khayal came, but Khayal migrated to Gwalior. Gwalior had the patronage for Khayal. But in Lucknow, so Sadiq Ali Khan, he was a guru of Wajid Ali Shah. So in 1800, he started propagating and teaching. And his brother-in-law was Khurshid Ali Khan, who was born in 1835. And mind it, he lived for 110 years almost. He died in 1950. So this man saw medieval India walking into the folds of modern India. And he used to sing from Lucknow, your Akashwani, from 90, because Akashwanis were established in 1924. So there he used to come. But he was never recorded. Unfortunate. Otherwise you could have listened the early music of Lucknow till now. I could find one record of his from a kabad, made by a German company in 1906. And that is a Khayal. So the Khayal of Mughal period, which migrated to Lucknow, and the gharana is called Kawal Bache Gharana. So I could get one from only one piece. So I've given in my book the notations also for the future generation to listen. So gentlemen, this is, I was posted in Lucknow, so I was approached by some people and I dared to write a book called Bajanama, which is basically the first decade of Indian sound recording history from 1902 to say 1915, and who are the artists and where are those records, because in my collection those records are there. So I gave photographs of those records and the book talks about that. It is here in the library also. If you are interested, you can have a glance. Subsequently, I was posted as commissioner here in Thane. So at that time, I came across cylindrical recordings, which was considered to be lost. And what happened, that in foreign countries like America and all, they started having their archives in 1886. We don't have even today. And they came to India, some of them, and they recorded many of the Indian people also, and took those cylinders away from India. And they are lying in British Museum, Germany's museum, not in India. And here we considered nothing is available. But we came across in this 2014, suddenly I started getting these cylinders. Because I feel that somehow an external force was guiding and helping us, that as if I am a chosen medium and you complete this work. So within 1 year, I wrote this book and published, and as if there was a Khulja Simsim. You will not believe, these cylinders which were not available as a single piece in India anywhere, I could get 300 of them in a year. And voices of such people which were considered not existent by the entire world, not India, entire world. I give you a classic example. Everybody of us knows about Dada Saheb Phalke. Dada Saheb Phalke is the first movie maker, silent cinema, in 1912, Raja Harishchandra. He was alive till 1934 or so. He was never recorded. Today we feel pride to award Dada Saheb Phalke Award in Bollywood. But nobody is bothered, nobody was bothered to record Dada Saheb Phalke when in 1931 itself Alamara came as a talkie. So Indian film industry started in 1912. Dada Saheb was alive till talkie came. He was never recorded. Today we feel pride to recognize him and do, but we really never recognized him. I have no remorse to tell that. Then what happened? That Dada Saheb Phalke, after making this 1912 movie, Raja Harishchandra, recorded his voice on a cylinder. His experience in 1912 itself. And that cylinder I could spot. So today when I am requesting my friend to show you the rarest of the voices in India, it is with my book, The Wonder That Was Cylinder, and there is a DVD for 20 minutes for the world music lovers. You can listen to Aladiya Khan, Dada Saheb Phalke, a Gauhar Jan's cylinder, though Gauhar Jan's recordings are available. You can listen to a gentleman who is called like Kirloskar Natak Mandli. Those who are interested in Maharashtra theatre, Kirloskar Natak Mandli somewhere established in 1880. They used to recruit boys to work as a dancing girl. So there was a gentleman from Baroda, he was hired, called Bhaurao Kolhatkar. So Bhaurao Kolhatkar died in 1900 when sound recording had not come to India. But cylinder was there privately. So his voice is recorded for, because the beginning of a drama was done by revering to Lord Ganesha. So that is called Nandi. So his Nandi is recorded. So definitely prior to 1900. And as I was telling you that for 1 year, we experienced that the sky has opened for us. So one day me and my wife, we used to go together in Kavadwala's place. So we went there during the process when half of the book was written. So what we saw, that she spotted a box having some objects. So she told me that perhaps this will interest you. So when I went and asked that person, he told कि साहब ये तो textile का bobbin है, because those cylinders are also long kind and all. So I told okay, आप मैंने खरीद लिया उसको. And when I brought it, there were 200 brown wax cylinders. You'll be surprised. Some were made in 1900, spotted in 2014. And when we started, we had the machine. When we started playing, then in that, in 40 there were voice. Who has sang, not known. And in 5, in Urdu, the date of recording is written. And those recording date is of 1899. So in my book, I enlisted all those recordings and I gave it the name Abha cylinders because she had discovered it. So they happen to be till date India's oldest voice recordings. There may be earlier also, but they don't survive. Among the surviving voice cylinders, Abha cylinders are oldest. The first one is called Abha X. It is recorded on 26th May 1899. So these are cultural heritage, gentlemen. So there are all other cylinders also, very important ones, like Paluskar, the father, Vishnu Digambar Paluskar, because we had D.V. Paluskar, whom you listen, Tumki Chalata Ramchandra and all. No, his father, who was basically based in Lahore, and he established Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. You will find Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. It is Paluskar, the father. He was a saintly person. His recordings are available on the single. They are all single, existing in this world. But they are our cultural heritage. And again I say, you watch this DVD, then I'll ask questions. It's more than 10 minutes now. Okay.
Sare India's musical legacy is vast and wonderful. Tracing its journey from the time of the Natya Shastras, an ancient Indian discourse on the performing arts over 5,000 years old, to Hindustani classical and Carnatic music in the royal courts, India has been a storehouse of diverse cultural traditions. Immortalized in many forms, be it song, dance, theatre, film, or literature, the musical heritage of a nation brimming with centuries' worth of art and culture is thought to be well preserved in the pages of history. However, within these pages, we find a few crucial gaps in knowledge, neglected periods of time of which there is no record found. One such area is the beginning of the sound recording era in India, that is, the era of the phonograph and the wax cylinder. Chroniclers of Indian ethnomusicology have failed in their efforts to document the physical existence of even one cylindrical record from the early 1900s, and thus, early voice recordings of the greats of Hindustani classical music have been lost to the ravages of time, never to be heard again. Till now. In The Wonder That Was the Cylinder, we document author A.N. Sharma's 25-year-long search for remnants of India's sound recording history and showcase his efforts in unearthing priceless cylindrical recordings of Indian artists considered lost in the annals of time. The book is brimming with intricate details about a long-forgotten period of Indian history and brings to light the country's remarkable legacy in music, theatre, and film through elaborate historical accounts of some of India's greatest artists throughout the ages. The Wonder That Was the Cylinder is accompanied by this CD of extremely rare voice recordings of these artists. The following recordings have been extracted from wax cylindrical recordings that date back to the early 1900s, discovered through Mr. Sharma's own personal efforts over the past 2 decades. The famed multilingual and flamboyant nautch girl of colonial Calcutta, Gauhar Jaan was a skilled vocalist of Hindustani classical music. Her tryst with music began at the tender age of 15 with her maiden performance at the royal courts of that time. Trained by the masters of Indian classical music, she pioneered the art of dancing while singing thumris. In an era of nautch girls, mehfils, and mujras, she made musical waves with her unique talents. There are many disc records of Gauhar Jaan that have been found, but we have unearthed her voice on a brown wax cylinder, the only one of its kind. The earliest known Indian recorded cylinders from the year 1902 are preserved outside India in places such as the Berlin Phonogram Archive and other British museums. However, in the course of our research, we stumbled upon a group of cylinders dating back to the year 1899. These have thus been established as the earliest documented voice recordings of India in the world till date. Here is an unidentified voice from this long-forgotten era. While cylindrical records entered the global market from 1895 onwards, India wasn't too far behind, and many dealers soon started importing and selling phonographs and cylinders in India. One among them was Sheriar Aspendiar Phonograph Company, Kalba Devi, Mumbai. They used to visit interested parties and render their services of recording their voices. These privately recorded cylinders are perfect examples of Indian expertise in sound recording.
Phonograph Agency, Bombay.
The history of cylindrical sound recording would be incomplete without the contribution of Hemendra Mohan Bose. The first Indian to indigenously manufacture cylindrical blanks in 1900, H. Bose recorded many important voices, such as Rabindranath Tagore, Lal Chand Bural, and D.L. Roy. However, his role during the anti-partition movement of Bengal and dissemination of the patriotic song Bande Mataram cost him greatly, and most of his records were destroyed by the British government. All but one, in the voice of Pyara Sahib of Metia Bruce, Calcutta, appear to have perished. A relation of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah of Lucknow, Pyara Sahib was recorded under various disc banners. Most of his cylindrical recordings were transferred onto Pathé discs. We have unearthed a cylindrical recording of Pyara Sahib, but have yet to decipher and play its contents. For now, we bring you the voice of Purna Kumari Dasi, an actress from Calcutta that has been transferred from a cylinder onto a Pathé disc. There are certain maestros of yesteryear that, till now, have been considered unrecorded. One stalwart among the masters of this age was Ustad Aladiya Khan, the doyen of the Jaipur Atroli Gharana. No one till today can claim to have heard a recording of the great Ustad, and generations of researchers and music lovers have lamented that this celestial voice that we have read so much about has never been recorded and preserved for posterity. We are about to rewrite these pages of history. During the course of our research, we came upon perhaps the only surviving disc recording of the inimitable Ustad Aladiya Khan. Let us unveil this melodious proof of the great Ustad's voice. And now, we come to one of our rarest and most valuable finds in this project, Ustad Aladiya Khan's cylindrical recording, the only one discovered in the world till date. In the beginning, you can hear an announcement of his name, followed by a rendering by the Ustad, faint due to the advanced age of the cylinder. Another rare voice that we have discovered is the one on the cylindrical record of the great saint and musician Pandit V.D. Paluskar. Credited with pioneering musical education in India, V.D. Paluskar brought about a paradigm shift and forever changed the face of Indian classical music in the country. Breaking out of the Guru Shishya method of learning, Paluskar set up the first publicly funded and managed educational institution of music in Lahore and single handedly elevated the status of the singing profession in society. We now bring you one of the earliest recordings of this musical visionary from a brown wax cylinder discovered in our efforts. We now take you into the world of Indian drama and theatre with the voices of some of the greatest performers on the stage. The great Bhaurao Kulhatkar, a legend on the Marathi theatre stage, started his career with Kirloskar Natak Mandli in 1882. A keen observer, Bhaurao didn't require much rehearsal, rapidly picking up the finer nuances of his roles and bringing them to life in his performance. His elegant physique and melodious voice mesmerized the audience. Bhaurao passed away in 1901, just before the commencement of the commercial recording era in the Indian subcontinent in 1902. Thus, we can safely assume that no one from the current generation has ever heard this charismatic voice. One of our most astonishing finds, therefore, was a cylinder with the rendition of a Nandi in his voice. Perhaps the only recorded voice of this great performer, surfacing before us today in proud defiance of the otherwise inevitable deterioration at the hands of time. Blessed with a voice that could master a range of styles, Pandit Bhaskar Bua Bakhale was one of the most revered and versatile artists of his time. Starting off as a humble apprentice in the Kirloskar Natak Mandli, he was once harshly reprimanded by none other than Bhaurao Kulhatkar, one of his superiors, who mocked young Bhaskar's passion for music. Stung into action, he set out to carve a niche for himself by mastering a remarkable number of styles and enchanting peers and listeners alike with his dulcet tones. We showcase here a rare cylindrical recording of this maestro, heralded as one of the finest musicians in the realm of Hindustani classical music. At a tender age, Bal Gandharva took the stage by storm and conjured magic through his voice. Brimming with talent, he found fame and recognition in numerous plays. In an era when the stage forbid the presence of women, young Bal Gandharva changed the course of Marathi theatre forever. This legend mesmerized many with his superbly played feminine roles and left behind a vast repertoire of plays to be cherished by generations of theatre lovers. From humble beginnings at a theatre company to building up his own and a stint in the talkies, his memories are revived through wax cylindrical recordings discovered in the course of our research.
Tonight.
We now enter the world of Parsi theatre, an increasingly popular genre of the performing arts in those times. Theatre troupes roamed freely across India during the late 19th and early 20th century. The Ram Prakash Theatre was founded in Jaipur by Maharaja Ram Singh Savai II, especially for Parsi theatre. One such rising star on this stage was Miss Allabandi of Jaipur. We have discovered one of her scarcely found disc recordings and have also stumbled upon this rare and only existing cylinder of her voice in the play Bazme-e Fani, an adaptation of the Shakespearean classic Romeo and Juliet.
ऐसे नाटक कंपनी के बदले पानी के तमाशे में गाया हुआ गाना
Last but not the least, we take you to the world of Indian cinema and its father and founder, Dada Saheb Phalke. More than a century after his and India's first silent feature film, Raja Harishchandra, was released, his illustrious works still project poetry on screen. The incredible journey of Dada Saheb Phalke resulted in the birth of an industry that has carved a place for itself in world cinema today. The voice of this luminary has been discovered on a wax cylinder, recording his experience while producing Raja Harishchandra.
ये धीराज गोविंद फाल्के इंडियन सिनेमा बनाला त्याला काय कारण होती आज 1913 राजा हरिश्चंद्र हा सिनेमा बनवला आणि आज हिंदुस्तान सिनेमाचा पाया रचला गेला.
The wonder that was the cylinder fills in these missing pages of India's musical history. This fascinating account of India's contribution to sound recording is written by Mr. A.N. Sharma and his daughter Anukriti, aiming to spur like-minded researchers on in their quest for such items of historical significance in our country's past. Through this project, we hope to infuse fresh enthusiasm into global as well as national research of cylindrical sound recording through the ages. We hope you experience the same elation reading as we did putting together this labor of love.
Hello. So I think you must have enjoyed this rarest of the rare voice of India. And see, the project and the area is very vast. It will take few days to elaborate these things. But since I have been invited here to give a talk on the eve of 75th Independence Day, so it will be definitely required, or it is churning your mind as well, that what about our sound recordings of Indian freedom movement? Because in 1900 to 1947 was a period when sound recording was available. So do we have the recordings concerned to our leaders or associated things? In fact, since last 6 years I am working on this project, and I am writing a book which will be, now I am expecting 2 volumes, and it is documenting all those voice records which are directly or indirectly associated with our freedom movement. Now when I talk directly, then I will give you example. See, first thing we have to understand that India, the colonized India, British colonized India, was exploited not only by Britishers. All through India was also exploited by Indians. And that is a reality. When we say we fought against Britishers, we call it independence movement. When we said we fought against Indians, we call it social reformation. But in the fold of social reformation, were we fighting? We were fighting Indians, our own cultural aberrations, which had basically not been culturally that kind, but due to interest of few people, they started exploiting. So the freedom movement, the whole freedom movement, is a joint movement of our people against these social taboos as well as the foreign invaders. And then today's India, what you have got, if you think of India of 100 years back, 120 years back, do you know that in 1902 the longevity for a man was 22 years and a female was 20 years, or other way around? That was the age. We died in hundreds, not because, because of Britishers said that famine. There were so many famines and Indians used to die like animals. But why we died? Because our food material were stolen by many people, the foreigners, and we were kept hungry here. In Second World War, it is said that Churchill diverted our food stock from India for their fighters, and in India there was a big famine, Bengal famine and all, and our people died. So when Britishers occupied us, in GDP almost we are heading 34% of the world. Today you will not go to a poor man's house to loot. You will always come a rich man's house to loot. So India was a rich, so these foreign companies came here and they looted us to the hilt. But our people also fought, and our people were fighting at both the sides. They were fighting the Britishers as well as they were fighting our own people. A large chunk of our own people were also supporter of Britishers and British rule. That's why we were losing. See, it is surprising that in most of the wars, that Battle of Plassey, as per our Varnashram, we had a fighting class. So every Indian was not a fighter. Today, every Indian is a fighter. If anybody attacks, irrespective of your caste, religion, you are a sepoy, if you are capable to fight. But in those days, a particular caste and class was fighting. So Britishers were hardly 2 lakhs Britishers were ruling 30 crores of Indians. Because out of 30 crores, hardly 50 lakhs were fighters. And remaining were sitting and watching. In Ramayana there is a saying, "Kyau nripa hui hamu kahani." The most of the common people, unko koi antar nahi padta tha. So this is how we were ruled by foreigners. But now once we are writing the history, we have 52 sound recordings of Mahatma Gandhi in my collection. Speeches. Then we have recordings of Jawaharlal Nehru, because I am not elaborating, I am just giving you, time is a constant. When in 15th of August 1947, in the night of 14th August 1947, when we started declaring the Constituent Assembly, 3 speeches were given. One in the voice of Lord Mountbatten, which is I am covering in my book, Hindi, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and third one was by Jawaharlal Nehru. Apart that, in 1936, there used to be a viceroy. His name was Lord Lithgow. Here in Gandhi Museum, I will tell you that in Wardha, if you go, he was the first viceroy who gave Mahatma Gandhi a telephone, which is in Wardha's Gandhi Ashram. I could find from the footpath Lord Lithgow's speech when he joined the Viceroyalty of India in 1936. So I will be sharing, you can watch, if my book is published, you can hear Lord Lithgow. Obviously, from the foreign side, you had the King Edward VIII. George V gave the speech in first round table conference, opening his speech in House of Lords. That voice is available. In first world, round table conference, Mahatma Gandhi had not gone, because post salt satyagraha, they all were jailed, and they had not participated in the first round table conference. But later on, Gandhi-Irwin Pact materialized and they were released, and then they participated in second. So at that time, we had the concept of dominion. We were asking for dominion in India. You will be surprised that in our history, we say we were British colony, which we never were. We were British dependency. British colony means those who had their own government, like Canada, Australia, they were British colonies. We were asking to become a colony, give us more power, more constitutional power. So if you read the constitutional history of India, you will find all this 1919 reforms, even 1951, the 3 round table conferences. We were asking, give us a federal structure, give us a dominion power. And then also side by side, like B.G. Tilak, Annie Besant, Purna Swaraj and all those kind of things, and Mahatma Gandhi, of course. These elements are also preserved. See, India in those days had 2 geographical division. One geographical division was British India, directly controlled by Britishers. But 40% of India was controlled by Indian states. And almost 600 of them were there. They were controlled by Britishers through some treaties. But you can imagine the people who were in those areas, like a particular state, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Jodhpur, they were controlled by their Rajas, Maharajas. So for their independence, they had to fight the Raja Maharaja as well as British India. And they were trying to get support from Jawaharlal Nehru or other leaders or Mahatma Gandhi. We have a very famous personality called N.C. Kelkar. N.C. Kelkar, he was number 2 man of B.G. Tilak, and as and when B.G. Tilak was jailed twice, then N.C. Kelkar became the editor of Maratha and the other magazine which they were publishing. So N.C. Kelkar also represented an organization which is Indian States Freedom Organization kind of thing from the various states. And he asked questions from Gandhiji that what should we do as the people of the state, how we join the Indian freedom movement. So those elements are also preserved in sound recording. Because when first, second and third round table conference was taking place, then some of the Rajas, their representatives were also going. You will be surprised, in my career of 35, 36 years, I never come across certain records. As I told you that when we were writing on cylinder, the cylinders start coming. Now I am writing on this, you will not believe. These things have started suddenly appearing from footpath, which in my career of 36 years I had never seen them. I give you one example. I don't know when any one of you must have heard the name of Mr. Akbar Haidari. Akbar Haidari was Prime Minister of Hyderabad. He was an Indian Audit Service officer who went to Hyderabad and slowly became Prime Minister of Hyderabad. And in first round table conference, it was he, and he was a relative of sister's son of Badruddin Tayyabji, who was third president of third Indian Congress, National Congress. So a Bori Muslim. So he became Prime Minister, and he, with the help of, because in 1921, these princely states, they had a conference of princely state. So all princely state had a group, and their officials were represented by one Mr. Kailash Narayan Haksar, K.N. Haksar, and another gentleman was K.M. Panikar. K.M. Panikar was a Harvard educated person, but he was working as assistant of Kailash Nath Haskar. So these 2 people convinced other Rajas and Maharajas to join Indian Federation. So India, by the Act of 1935, was recognized as a federal structure. Though there were controversies, acceptance, and the instrument of accession, that you will accede to the Indian Union, was drafted during those days, which we have today, the Kashmir controversy, and that same thing continued even for later part. I came across Akbar Haidari's record, giving his experience in participation in first round table conference. Then in those days, there was a gentleman who was a lawyer, very famous lawyer from South. And he was also a constitutional expert. He was constitutional expert, a lawyer, and he came from the family of Hindu, the newspaper. So Hindu newspaper, because in Ram and all you have heard, they were forefathers, one generation back. So this gentleman went with Mahatma Gandhi ji as his constitutional and political advisor in the second round table conference. His record is there on round table conference. After coming to India, he has given, perhaps the name, if I am correct, A. Rangaswamy Iyengar. But I came across very recently that even he has given his view on round table conference. Then from the states, one gentleman, Mr. Mudaliar, Dewan Mudaliar, so he has his records. And to our surprise, what happened? I'll not take much time, madam. This story is endless. See, when the earliest, you will ask, what is the earliest political records of India? I'll give you two examples, then I'll close it, because it will be boring, I feel, if I continue. See, in 1905-1906, Lord Curzon wanted to partition Bengal, because Bengalis were giving him a hell lot of trouble. So once he told that God may forgive Bengalis, but I never will. Okay, what they will do, that they will print some talks of independence discussed in British Parliament in their local newspaper without giving the reference from where they have taken. So the publication will be considered as an Indian, as a slave. How can you write like this on independence? Then they will go to the court and say, my lord, by mistake we could not print from where we have taken the extract. So Curzon, as a viceroy of India, was hell-bent to divide Bengal into two. So as the upper part, that is Bangladesh today, and the lower part, that is the Bengal today, he wanted to divide so as divide the Bengalis. And once the Bengalis are divided, the fight against them, Britishers, will be lessened. So in 1905, 1906, there was a proposal to divide the Bengal, that is partition of Bengal. That was the period when Vande Mataram came as the national outcry, and Vande Mataram recording also started. Some of the foreign companies as well as Indian companies, they started recording Vande Mataram. One of the first recording of Vande Mataram was on Pathe, you saw Rabindranath Tagore by H. Bose. H. Bose was a really father of indigenous recording. Like HMB were foreigners, but H. Bose was a very brilliant person. So he had his own technology, and he used to record Rabindranath Tagore, D.L. Roy and all those people, and he released. Later on he participated in Indian freedom movement, and his house was totally ransacked. Now a personal experience. I was writing a chapter in this book on H. Bose. So at the time I was serving commissioner, so I was just in my office, in the spare time I was writing on that. I thought that why to write the detailed history of H. Bose? Let us start from H. Bose's recording period. But H. Bose's history is that he came to Calcutta somewhere in 1895, and he was studying medical. So some acid during experimentation splashed into his eyes. He left medical study, went to business, started making perfumes called Dilkhush. And he was into various things, car repairing, then cycle, other shops. He started bringing out a magazine, literary magazine, in which Rabindranath Tagore also used to write. So today if you have a literary competition, its origin is from H. Bose, Hemendra Mohan Bose. So I thought to ignore all these things. So next day I had a meeting of commissioners in Custom House. So I received a call from one kabadiwala. So he told me, sir, from another kabadiwala, I have spotted a glass bottle of H. Bose's scent. So direction to me from H. Bose's soul was that, Mr. Sharma, if you are daring to write on me, don't ignore my other works. And I have given the photograph of that scent bottle, which was H. Bose's manufacture. So while in the course of writing, these things happens. So what I was telling you, that during 1905, surprisingly, a record was made because Mahatma Gandhi was not on the scene. He came virtually in a later period, but in 1905-1906, the India's nationalist leader was Surendranath Banerjee. And in the voice of Surendranath Banerjee, a German company made a first gramophone record, and German company's logo was Beka Grand. So Beka was a term used from the syllables of two of its directors' name. But for the cause of Indian nationalism, they removed the term Beka and wrote National Grand Record. And it has Vande Mataram, one side, a speech of Surendranath Banerjee, other side, partition of Bengal and Swadeshism. And this is later on destroyed, but only one piece survives with me. Yeah. And you can listen to Surendranath Banerjee in 1905. In my next book, I am going to share through a DVD his voice. And early recordings of Vande Mataram. You listen to Narayan Chand Mukherjee recorded, or R.N. Chatterjee recorded. Later on, all these recordings were banned. Now I give you a small example from the theatre side. See, in 1876, in Bengal, there was one British, gentleman, a family of the king. He came to Bengal, and in a Bengali lawyer's house, generally Hindus, in those days Parda system was there, so he was not permitted to go inside the home, but he was taken inside the Janana area, and there he was welcomed, because in Bengal there is a system of producing a voice called uluation, like ululululu, like that. That is a welcome sound. So he was welcomed. So at that time the drama people, the Indian nationalist movement was there, and there were few people of Bengal, Calcutta, they were having the national drama theatre group. So there was a drama produced against this happening. So British people, they tried to control it. So again, unko chidhane ke liye they did another drama. This is all sarcastically. So in 1876, government came out with a law, that is Dramatic Performance Control Act 1876. So if you want to play any drama, it will be not anti-British, and first you have to show the drama to the administration. If they approve, then you can play. So a lot of violations of this drama has taken place in India. Okay, and many dramas have been proscribed, and we have records. So what our forefathers did in those days, if you remember that after 1857, we were a demoralized lot. In 1857 itself, 3 universities were opened in India, Madras, Bombay and Calcutta, and their English education started coming. So our English educated people, they never forgot their Indian roots, and they were very much aware, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy and all. There is a saying about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, that Raja Ram Mohan Roy had 2 houses in Calcutta. In first house, everything was Indian but Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and in second house, everything was foreign but Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So in one house he was Indian, in another house he was a foreigner. It means that our cultural heritage, there was a synthetic approach, best of West and best of East. This is how we progressed in our freedom movement time. So mythology became a central issue for dramas. But behind the mythology, there was a meaning of independence. I give you a classic example from Maharashtra theatre, that we had a theatre called Kichak Vad. In 1905, when this Bengal agitation started, B.G. Tilak, etc., they were following that. And in Maharashtra also, there was a wave. All India wave was there, Vande Mataram came and all kind of things. So here Kichak Vad, Kichak was the military commander of Lord Virat. And if you know Mahabharat, Lord Virat was the king where Draupadi and Pandavas went in Agyatwas. So Kichak thought that she is a servant lady. So Kichak was taking advances on Draupadi. Later on, Virat was helpless, so he could not do. So later on, Bhim killed Kichak. So this drama in Marathi theatre was exhibited in Pune. And if you go to this archive in Maharashtra, you will find that there is a file on that. And secret police file. And in that secret police file, each and every drama has been examined. And there are notes in those days, 1905, 1906 notes. And they write that why this drama should be proscribed or not. So here, one Brahmin gentleman went to see the Pune drama, and he said that Kichak is Biji Tilak and Bharat Mata is Draupadi. Oh, sorry, Kichak. Bhim is Biji Tilak. Kichak is Lord Karjan. So Bhim means Biji Tilak kills Lord Karjan, and Bharat Mata is Draupadi. Okay. So this is how the people are getting made aware about their national feelings. So this drama was banned. They prohibited this drama. Like there are, see, hundreds of examples. Then see, generally when we talk about freedom movement, we perhaps ignore the roles of subaltern people, the common masses. There have been hundreds of people who have fought. I give you a classic example. One day in Kabad, through one person, I came across a box of material of correspondence of a gentleman who fought for independence of Goa. He was a school teacher, Maharashtrian school teacher in Goa, who went as a revolutionary person, who went to capture a police station, and due course he was fired upon, and he fired in return and killed 2 Portuguese. But he was also fired. He was lying in a pool of blood. So his people came to lift him. He told, no, you run away. And he was captured, and he was put for 46 years jail term. When India became independent, lot of bargaining went with Portuguese territories like Silvassa, Daman and all these people, but he was not got released, and he was landed in Lisbon's jail. And later on, because somebody was telling that we had many freedom fighters, I could get the opportunity. Then I thought to include him in my book, the coming book. But I don't have his voice. And my book is a oral history. The voice you can listen. Otherwise, it's not only a written history. Duly substantiated with voice. I found that he's alive. And 4 years back, and I went to Pune. He was living in a mild atmosphere. I recorded him for 1 hour. And he elaborated his entire episode. He was in Lisbon's jail, and in a lot of correspondence of the Mrs. Gandhi's time. Then when Natwar Singh, our ex-foreign minister, was the deputy secretary, his signatured letters, all were there. So I thought to include him in my work with a DVD of my interview with that gentleman. Unfortunately, now he is no more. But before his death, I recorded him. So our history is preserved. So gentlemen and ladies, rather I should say ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge history. It needs dedication, trying to find it out. A lot of materials are available. A lot of voice recordings are there. A lot of history is embedded. Once you dig, you will be really surprised. A lot of books are available. And till now, at least for India, we have not been able to publish the oral history of Indian freedom movement. The history which you can listen. With a last example, because the most menial people in our society, and especially for the female, have been dancing girls and prostitutes. But they have also contributed to the cause of Indian freedom movement. I give you a classic example of a lady, because when this freedom movement was there in the progression, the prostitutes or dancing girls, they from Barisal, Bengal, they approached first Mahatma Gandhi to get them inducted. And later on, a place in south called Kakinada, from there they approached. So Gandhiji told that you have to leave that profession and start weaving khadi and join, because economic alternative is required. Anyway, whosoever joined, whosoever not joined, that is a different part. But Mahatma Gandhi guided them like that. During that period only, somewhere in 1922, Mahatma Gandhi had gone to Banaras. So in Banaras there used to be a Tawayaf Sangh called Kasi Tawayaf Sangh. And the president of Kasi was Husna Jan, a lady who was very bold. She was also nicknamed as Sarkar, a very bold lady. So she has her voice record, and she has given an electrifying speech which has been published in a book called Var Vadhu. Var Vadhu is dancing girl. Var Vadhu Vivechan by a gentleman called Pandit Sudhadhar Dev Sharma. He has written on the history of Indian dancing girls or prostitutes. So in that his speech is there. And she told that perhaps we are not able to take this suggestion that we will quit our profession, but we will dance and sing. But whenever we will present our song, our mujra, we will start with 2-line national song. So they used to sing 2-line national song and then start mujra. So that ladies is not a speech, but her voice recording in the form of songs and all is available in our collection. And as I told that Indians were fighting Indians, there is a very remarkable history how we fought against a child abdication bill. There used to be a lady, Subhalakshmi Rajamanikam from South India, who right from the beginning fought, because earlier young women were brainwashed. They used to have some kind of expectation from Mandir and God. So they will sacrifice their daughter. So you had this Devadasi Pratha. So Devadasi Pratha was not introduced by foreigners. It was introduced by Indians. So we fought against that during this course of independence only. And by 1947, this was totally removed from country. But we have recordings of so many Devadasis, their voice recordings. And you'll be surprised that today's Bharatnatyam is basically their dance. Bharatnatyam is named because it was a Devadasi dance, but it was given a new name, Bharatnatyam. So we have a lot of history, this subaltern history how through dramas we fought, all those elements of national movement, songs. I am surprised that there are songs by name. Generally they were hidden meanings and but by name from Gujarat, Jyotsna and then Avinash Vyas, Jyotsna Mehta. Churchill, you sleep, India will awake. This is how they are saying. There are songs pre-1947 under Young India level, directly mentioning Lord Linlithgow, like that. And from Odisha also there are records which talk about sarcastically on round table conference. And you have famous records of Chanajor Gram. This Chanajor Gram and all, this all originated in Banaras from the Bhartendu Harishchandra drama. So that was also an attack on Britishers. Because in Indian states the situation was still worst. They had to fight the Rajas and then the Britishers. Anyway, I am concluding that. Thanks a lot.